Hi, I'm Coach Ray and welcome to this in-depth demo of the HumanGO app.
We're going to start from your plan page, but head to the top right hand side of the screen to the drop down menu. You can see here, this is where if you are a coach you can toggle between coach and athlete. I'm showing you my athlete view today. The My Account option is going to take you where you can edit your profile. You can change your subscription and change your password, and you can even apply to be a HumanGO ambassador. The next option down on the drop down is settings. This is where you can set your default time for a workout. You can set your preferred system of measurement. If you would like to add a privacy distance, meaning the first portion of your workout maps will not be displayed to your connections in HumanGO, you can select that here. If you're using the Wahoo system workouts, you can choose to add one or all of your bike rides to your program, and you can choose your preferred language here as well, and of course your communication preferences down here. The next option down after settings is devices and apps. This is where you're going to add your wearables and your platforms that you use for your training. So you'd be selecting any one of those and following through with the steps to add those to your HumanGO profile. You can see here I have a Garmin connected. I'm sharing all of my sleep, resting heart rate and HRV data, and I have all of my sports turned on here. If I didn't want to share any one of those sports or health data metrics, I can simply select that and turn that off right here. You can also see here, this is where I have my calendar sync. I got that by going to calendar sync here and adding that to my account. And if I want to get the URL to sync my calendar, all I have to do is select that, copy and paste that into my browser. From devices and apps, the next option down is sports. This is where you can choose to turn on or off any of the sports that you're training. This is also where you can select the minimum workout duration. You can see this here is set at 20 minutes. But you can edit that. You can also set the guided by metric that you would like all of your workouts in your training to be guided by. In this example, I've chosen heart rate, meaning all of the workouts that Hugo prescribes me for running will be guided by heart rate. I can change that here as a universal setting, and I can also change that at the workout level. I can add equipment here. You can see here there's a bike added, and I can also set the default pull distance that I generally work out in right here. When it comes to adding equipment, especially for the bike, when it comes to the race planner, this is important. The specifics of your bike that you've added here will be accounted for in your race planner. Now let's navigate away from the sports page over to your plan, top left hand side of the screen. Your plan is the location that holds all of the information about your training. First thing to note is that we've defaulted to a monthly view here, but if you would like to see your training by week, you can switch that to week view here. Based on what week or month you would like to view, you can also come on down here and using the drop down menu specify the month or even the year that you would like to view. And if you would like to be very specific by week, you can also select the date here, and that will bring you directly to that week of training. What you'll also notice on the training calendar here is a weather icon for your local weather. You'll notice what phase you are in. You'll see that you can replan this week only with a simple selection of the replan this week button. And on the right hand side, you'll notice that there are totals for the week also broken down by sport. And if you want to view those in a different way, you can select duration, distance or load. At this point I'm having that displayed as load, but we can switch that to duration and you'll see the values change here. On this page I can also select to take a day off, and I can easily drag and drop a workout right here. Also relating to how you view your training, there is a summary schedule at the very top that you can filter. First of all, you would select the date that you would want that filtered by, and then you can select what you would like to see here: fitness, fatigue, stress, sleep, weight, resting heart rate, calories, active, and the subjective scores that you enter based on how you feel on a daily basis, as well as how you perceive your workouts have gone. You can filter that by date by selecting the drop down here, or simply selecting the date that you would like to view. At the top right hand of the screen, you'll also see for this date range the specific max training hours that have been applied to that training week and the number of sports sessions for that week specifically. I'm going to come back to the monthly view here. Okay, so now that we've had a look at how to view your training, a high overview, let's look at your training week, or consider it your routine training specific for a goal. You see Hugo is still doing its thing there, updating my training plan all the way through. We will go to one of two places to edit my training routine for my goal. The first place is the very top here, edit training week. And the other option will be through the goals option, which is this icon a little bit further to the right here. I'm going to show you how to edit your training week from the edit training week icon to begin. So you can see here I have my max training hours set at 10.5. I have each of the numbers of sessions per sport outlined here in a summary. I can turn the days on and off for training here, and I can do a simple drag and drop from this menu as well. Important to note, making it super easy to see the training week for each of these goals, I can simply select the next goal, or any goal that I want to view for that matter, and I can edit the specific training week for each of those up and coming goals as well. In addition to the drag and drop, I can add a workout here. In this example, I'm adding a running session. I can make it a regular or a long session. I can specify the training zone that I would like that to default to, or focus on, I should say. I'm going to use default here because that's what Hugo is going to default to based on my energy distribution and my sport distribution. And I can specify too if this is going to be a Wahoo workout or not. I can set the max duration if I would like to here. At the moment you can see default displayed, but I can set it to manual if I want. And keep that at default. And I can specify if that is a brick or a group session. So what you'll see here is simply another run session being added. My total hours of training has just gone up. The number of run sessions per week has just increased, and the new workout has been added to the program here. From here, I can also edit that workout. I'll come back to that later on in the video, and I can delete it as well. Now, if I want to get very specific and override Hugo's recommendations for each of these time slots that I've allocated for each of my sports in my training week, I can select the magic icon up here and go for a deep dive into the absolutes of how this training week is set up for me for this goal. So I can go easier if I want. I can go with the ideal for me, and I can go with 10.5, which is suggesting that that's a little harder training. Or I can set a custom value here as well. I'm going to go with go harder. As I work my way through this menu, I can then edit each of the sports. I can change the number of sports, sessions per week for this training goal or for this racing goal. I can edit the regular session duration here. I can set it as default. This is Hugo's values showing up here for each of the phases. I can go manual or by phase. See, manual or by phase. A little bit more detail involved there, but I'm breaking it down, basically saying in each of these different phases, I want my regular session for running to be as specified. I'm going to move that back to default. I can do the same for my long session for that sport, for this goal. Same options here. And I can work my way down this menu for each of the sports, changing those specifics for my training week for that goal. And then I just simply ask Hugo to generate my weekly routine. I'm going to save that. And Hugo's going to ask me what weeks I would like that applied to. So I can select all, continue, continue. And then Hugo's going to go to work to create my goal for me, or my training for me for my goal. Now, as I mentioned, I showed you the edit training icon from the plan page. The second option to edit your training week or your training routine for your goal is to pop over to the goals icon. Under goals, you'll see my current goals and my past goals. You'll go to edit goal. And from the edit goal screen, you have a lot of options. But the first one is edit my training week for this goal. And I would go through exactly the same wizard that I showed you before. I can drag and drop here. I can toggle a day off. I can edit a workout. I can use the Super Hugo wizard up here and configure all of the specifics for that training week for that goal. I won't go through this again because I've already just showed you how to do that on the edit training week icon on the home page. So I'll close out of that. So that's the two main locations that you will edit your training week, both either by the edit training week icon or, like I said, within the edit goal. Okay, so over and above editing your training week or your training routine specific to each of your goals, there are other aspects of living day to day as an endurance athlete that might impact your training. There's a couple of things or extra actions that we need to know about here. If I go to add, I can add a past activity, something that maybe wasn't recorded or a file that wasn't captured through a wearable and transferred into HumanGO. So I can add a past activity here, upload from my computer, or just manually add in the specifics here. That obviously will change the calculations of the training load based on past activity. If I go to configure here and select availability. This is availability over and above your routine training week specific to your goal. From here, you can see the past work family and default rest periods that Hugo has integrated into my training schedule, and the ones that might be up and coming as well. But if I go to add availability here, I can add an injury, sickness, or force a recovery phase by adding an injury. I can give it a name here. I can select the body part. I can tell Hugo over what time frame would I like it to consider these specifics given that I have an injury. So at the moment the default is no training, but I can turn training on here. I can change the maximum number of hours for training. For the week, I can change the number of sports sessions for this time frame per week. And I can specify to Hugo if I would like to cap the total time for each of those sports and if I would like it to be low intensity. And I can turn sports off. So when I add that to my schedule, Hugo is going to take those training specifics into account and replan. The same goes for a sickness. I can pop in a name, I can give the time range or the date range I would like this applied to, and the same thing goes here. Or simply I can turn training off, and given the date range that I've specified, Hugo would remove all training for me so that I can get back to full health. The last one up here is a recovery. And this would be if you're feeling excessively fatigued, something's happened in life, something's popped up and you just need to take some rest days or days off training. Might not necessarily be specifically for recovery, it might just be that you have to take a couple of days off. This is where you can do that. There might be other aspects to your day-to-day that call for other adjustments. One of them could simply be your fatigue tolerance or your ability to absorb and recover from the training load. So if I select training intensity and recovery, we have two options here. Fatigue tolerance, which determines how aggressive Hugo's ramp is as you build towards your next goal, and that load and recovery cycle. In this case, it's a 3 weeks load, 1 week recovery. But you can customize that based on these defaults here, or literally customize it based on the number of loading days and recovery days right here. A couple of additional useful actions that you might want to take from the Your Plan screen can be selected from one here, the cog icon, range actions. You can either delete, lock, unlock, or export a range of workouts. And I'm just going to use delete as an example. I'm going to select my date range here. Select all sports, but I can be specific about what sports I would like to delete. And I can submit that to Hugo, and Hugo will delete all of the workouts in that date range. I can do the same for locking workouts, which means that if Hugo completes a replan, those workouts will be locked and will not be changed or moved. I can unlock the workouts, in which case Hugo has permission then to change or move those workouts around. And I could also be exporting a range of workouts from the library. I already showed you the weekly summary show as in the intro, the very beginning of this video, but just a quick little reminder. This is how you view the weekly summary here, also by week in the same view. And I can change it to load here as well. The last useful action that you might want to take that I haven't taken you through here yet is adding a performance assessment. So if I want to re-establish my thresholds or max heart rate for a given sport, I can do that here. I'm going to go with the threshold test for running. I have the option of 2 different tests here I can select. I can go based on a Hugo recommendation right here, or I can select a custom date from my calendar, submit that, and Hugo will automatically add that test to my training schedule and reallocate the training accordingly. Talking of adding a performance test to my schedule, let's talk about what it means to replan. If I'm not defaulting to Hugo constantly readjusting and I'm manually doing a replan, this is the action I'm going to take. I'm going to select the date range for my replanning. I can go with a custom date and select replan. That will send Hugo to work to allow for all of those adjustments and additions that I've made to my routine training week for my corresponding goal. Okay, now for some fun. Let's have a look at adjusting workouts. I'm going to select the little dumbbell icon up here, workouts icon. And what this is going to do is bring up access for me to the workout library. I can do this by the month view, and I can also do this on the week view. I mentioned earlier in this video that all of the features that you can see both on the monthly and weekly view are the same. But what I can do here is either add a new workout, so bring in an additional workout to my calendar, or I can replace a workout. I can filter by my sport, and I want something that includes endurance. 12-minute endurance, and I can scroll on down here to see the different options that I have available to me, and then scroll to the right to see the different versions of those workouts. If I want to get very specific, I can also come into the filter option, and I can filter that by distance, duration, elevation, and terrain to help me choose the appropriate workout for what I want. And then once I have it, I'm simply going to drag and drop it into my training routine. I can close that out here. And now I have a new workout added to my training week. So over and above using the workouts icon to add a new workout to my schedule, I can also edit a workout. Important to note there's a difference between the functions in editing a workout in the future and one from the past. Let's start with one from the past. This is my bike ride from yesterday. I can edit the info here. So if I am not confident in the values that have come through from my wearable, or in fact the wearable just didn't capture the entire workout, I can change the details here, save that, and that will update that workout. In this situation, I uploaded a file from my desktop from Velocity. So what I did here was to add that past activity. I selected past activity, uploaded it from my desktop, added that to HumanGO, and Hugo automatically linked that to this workout card here. So I can unlink that if I choose. I can exclude that from my analytics. I can combine that with another activity, export the activity, or delete it. So they're the functions for a past activity. Looking forward to a future activity. You can see this one here has been locked because it's been edited. I'm going to unlock it. Not that I have to right now, but I'm just going to show you that because it's just another action that you might want to undertake to unlock any workout that you've added to your schedule. When a workout is locked, it means that Hugo will not override it. Hugo will keep that in the same location, won't replace it, won't move it. But nonetheless, if I'm looking at editing that workout, I can select the version of that workout, maybe something a little bit harder here. I can add a note in here. I can set the default time and change the date if I want. I can set the default guided by metric. I mentioned that earlier, being able to set the global setting at the sport level, but you can also change that at the workout level. So I'm going to save that there. So I've edited that workout, basically changed it to another version, a longer index of that workout from the workout family. Now it's locked. It's telling Hugo not to change it. But like I showed you before, I can unlock that easy enough. The next action I can undertake for an up-and-coming workout is changing the workout out. So I can select from the workout family here another version of that workout, or down here I can ask Hugo for a suggestion, or I can select from the workout library. Going to the workout library filter again, it's just allowing me to select the distance that I might be looking at, the duration ideally I would like to train, the elevation and the terrain. So I can set those variables if I want. Search for the workout, and let's see here. This looks like a good one right here. Select and add that to the current card, replacing the existing workout with the new one. I can only do that by sport, by the way. I cannot replace a bike ride, for example, with a run. I would need to delete this workout and add a run if that was what I was looking at doing. I can edit my training configuration for this session if I want to be very specific for this session. This is separate to adjusting my routine training week for my goal. So if I save that here, that's specifying those training configurations for that workout. I can duplicate that and set that up for the next Friday, say for example. Although in this case would probably not be a good idea because it's the day before a race. So I can easily delete that here. Another way to edit the workout is to invite somebody. So if I have a friend in HumanGO, I want to have them add that workout to their schedule, maybe join me on the road or join me on a virtual ride. I can do that. I can push it to a third party if that's the case, and I can also print that workout. I can export it, change the guided by, click through here, lock it or delete it completely. Let's go to view your goals from your race plan view. Top right hand side of the screen, you're going to select the goals icon. At the top half of the screen you can see the existing goals in the season. If I had completed goals, they would be displaying on the bottom half of the screen here. Now from the goals page, we're going to go to the plus icon, top right hand side, and add a goal. I'm going to participate in a race. It's going to be a triathlon in this case, and it's going to be a full distance. But I want to show you where you can specify the leg distance and even add another leg. In this case, I've chosen a traditional length full distance triathlon, but I can add another leg here if I want. I can alter the distance here if I want. And I can create a custom goal. In this case, I'm just going to keep it as the default. adding my name of my race, the date of my race, and I can put in a location here as well if I want. This is where I'm informing Hugo about how aggressively I would like to approach this race. I could either be discovering the distance, challenging myself and having fun, a little bit more serious. I could be competitive, looking for a PB, or I can set a specific custom target time. In this case, I'm just going to challenge myself and have fun. I want to do well. I can customize the number of taper and recovery days here if I want. I absolutely want every taper and recovery day that Hugo is suggesting here. I could select not needed if I want to, but I want all of these. And then I'm going to create my goal. Hugo really wants to know now how I'm going to approach my training week when it comes to that goal. Hugo's come up with a suggested number of sessions based on my max hours that I currently have available. Now you can see the full distance triathlon is on my schedule here. I can also come up here, edit my training week, replan, and delete the goal. I can edit my goals from either of these two cards. Let's start with editing goals. Okay, we have several options here from this view: overview, phases, sub-goals, and race plan. Let's start with the overview. I can edit the name of my race, the location, the date. I can even edit the target for my race, meaning how aggressively do I want to go after that target time or expected time for that race. At the moment, this is set to challenge yourself and have fun, but it could be discover the distance, be competitive, and a custom target time. Hugo also recommends a certain number of taper and recovery days here. If I happen to change these within the editing option, I can always reset to default if I want to go back to Hugo's original suggestions. Then I can come up here to phases. This is where I can add a new phase if I choose. I can delete a phase or edit a phase. Editing a phase is a little bit more detailed. I can give it a specific name if I want and even write a description in here that might be a little bit more explanatory around the adjustments that I've made down here per sport. And I can set the date range for this phase if I want to edit that. You can see here I have options for editing the details for each of the sports by selecting the sport here. I can edit the regular and long duration for the workouts here. I could make this, say, for example, an hour and 15. And then I can readjust the time allocation for each of the energy systems for that sport for this date range. So I could say, for example, instead of having an hour and 10 total time in tempo per week for this phase, I could change that to an hour. I can also add a tag here, meaning if I've added a specific tag to a workout that I've created from custom in the workout library, I can add that tag here and tell Hugo how frequently I would like that to be included in this phase. And then if I do want to reset to Hugo's defaults, I also have the option to reset here. Now let's go to sub-goals. There isn't one here for this race yet, but I sort of see that this is a great opportunity to, in fact, add one of those. So let's add a sub-goal. I'm going to participate in a run. It's going to be a 5K. It's going to be in a couple of weeks' time. Let's just call this 5K fun. I actually am not going to take any taper and recovery days here, and I'm creating the sub-goal. And you can see that coming up here. Now, you can see the 5K fun goal here set up as a sub-goal. If I go back to my phases, you can see the race here as a sub-goal now displayed in my phases. I can also edit a sub-goal here. I can delete it and I can generate a specific race plan for that sub-goal. Talking about race plans, then we can go over to the last option here. View race plan. This one has actually already been completed, but I can edit this by selecting the pencil icon top right, Selecting effort or duration will specify how Hugo is going to approach your race plan. But for effort, let's just go with moderate. It's a wetsuit swim and I'm a strong sighter. I've just learnt that this transition is actually a little longer. I really want to test myself on the bike. I've selected my bike here. I'm going to be riding a TT bike on the road. I can add a map here if I choose. That will give me the option to have Hugo break down that race course into smaller increments or intervals, specifying my pacing and my intensity. I'm going to keep that transition the same, and I'm going to go hard on the run to finish up on the road. Now for this race, I had added a fourth leg, being a bike leg, so I do have a T3 in this case. Pretty representative of the unusual or new up-and-coming race formats and distance of legs that are coming out in a lot of events these days. I'm going to add a hard intensity here, aggressive and road at the same time. So I can update the plan there, and Hugo will go to work and give me an expected race time up here. So from the edit goal option, where we've looked at the overview, the phases, the sub-goals, and the race plan, I mentioned earlier that I had added a new leg, a fourth leg, to my goal. This is where I did that. It was a traditional 1.5 swim, 40 kilometre bike ride, 10 kilometre run. I added a 15 kilometre bike ride to the end. And that's what you saw that showed up in the race planner. I can delete the leg here, and I can also add another leg. This is where our goal configuration comes into its own when we're talking about new formats of swim run, say for example, different distances of legs with a multi-sport duathlon or aquabike. So this is where you would be adding that specific leg. Moving from your plan view, which incorporates all of the inputs into your training, now let's move on down the left-hand margin to progress. Your progress effectively is all of the outputs from your training and where you can track your health metrics. The overview page shows you the different options or cards that you can work through here. The lab report will take you to a page where you can view your lab results from a human-powered health lab, and you can also go to your activity log and filter that by a range of different actions right here. Just heading back to the overview, let's look at aerobic and metabolic. It's the icon that we're on right here, right now. Looking at this date range, we're really just looking at the first little phase of this year, or year to date, I should say. But you can see here, I have a threshold pace that's relevant as of today. I can come down here and I can edit the zones. So if I want to customize those zones, I can do that here. I can also add a metric, so I can update this metric here. And from the same page, I can edit the zones. From the same drop down, I can delete that metric or archive it so I no longer see it. I can scroll through each of the sports and see the same options. Now if I want to add a new value for running, threshold pace, threshold power, or max heart rate, I can do that here. I can set the date that I want that valid from, select the metric, and input the new value. I'm getting really fast. And you can see that updated here. If I want to view my metrics in a different way, I had to custom there. I can look at year to date. I can look at a weekly view. month view just by selecting the month down below, the quarter that's relevant, and I can scroll through by year as well, the entire year, or a custom date range. And there we have your aerobic and metabolic data. Coming over to body composition, you can see that here. You can edit the metric and delete it here as well. Sleep data, coming in based on how your wearable reports that. Again, you can edit or delete a metric. Health metric. So here you're looking at resting heart rate and HRV. Again, as they're reported by your wearable, and the ranges that have been reported. You can add a resting heart rate manually right here. You can also add a manual HRV value in the same way. Then we'll move on down to daily perception. This is where you're adding your daily feedback on how you're feeling. Obviously, that is a user input, so if you haven't input that here, it won't show up. And you can come on down here and see the entire history of your data. Goal stats relating to any of these goals, but the current goal is displayed here, showing the distance of the legs. Compliance against fitness. This is a graph here that represents the actual versus planned by heart rate, pace, or power for this specific goal. So this gives you a really accurate idea on how you're tracking against the plan. If you scroll on down a little further, you'll uncover a couple of other really important graphs. The first one here is your season. As you hover over your season, you can see your fitness, your form, and the phase that you're in, and the recommended fitness that Hugo is looking to achieve for you for that specific goal that you have on your season. And then at the very bottom, an aggregate of your compliance across the board, shaded by great, green, good, yellow, and average, red. And then on the far side of this screen, you can view your activity stats. You can filter them, number of activities, total duration, the distance, again remembering that you have this date range option here, total ascent, pace, and efficiency. You can see a heat map here of the workouts that you've completed, activity perception, so effectively how that workout went based on training load, rate of perceived exertion, and mood, and down to the specifics of your activity metrics themselves relating to heart rate decoupling and your efficiency factor. By scrolling across this graph, you can see the real values. Some peak stats here, or PRs, to track. And again, a sneak preview of your season. From your plan view, what we're going to do is scoot on down the left-hand margin here and check out the workout library. There are a lot of functions that you can capitalize on in here. A simple search by sport with a workout name, for example, END for endurance, will bring up all of the different workouts that have endurance in their title. From here, you are able to view the workout. So you can change the guided by metric to see what that looks like here. You can Open and close the steps if you choose, and get a good overview of what that workout contains. You can also duplicate a workout from here. And this is a way of building some specificity, some personal specificity into any of the Hugo workouts that you might want to add. So let's just call this copy V1. V1. I'm going to change the notes here. Oh, that's at least what I would suggest for you. And in this example that I'm using here, there's a number of repeats. It starts with 1, it goes up to 16 in increments of 1. But I don't want to be using the increment of 1. I want it to go up by increments of 2. The increment is a 12-minute increment, zone 2. I actually want to reduce this so I can edit that here as well. And when I come up here to preview, it's going to give me a new preview and a list of the new options within that workout family. I can simply save and exit that, and I've added a new workout with some different indexes to my workout library. So that builds on the already hundreds of workouts that Hugo selects from for your training plan. In addition to copying an existing workout and editing that with my own specifics, I can also create a workout from scratch. Give it a name, select the sport. I can add some comments in here, and I can also add a tag. That relates back to the periodization and the phases within your season. If you have added a tag to any of your phases that relate to the tags in the workouts that you've created, it increases the chances of those workouts being selected. You can also specify within the phase how many of those tagged workouts you would like to show up every week and the frequency. So to build out the workout, I'm just going to be dragging and dropping from the right-hand side here over to the left and specifying the duration and the zone, and I can continue to work through building out my workout in that way. The last thing that you can do in the workout library is search with the filter. So beyond just using a workout name, I want to get very specific with how long and maybe how difficult that workout is. So I can select my filters here, and Hugo will give me all the different variations that fall within those filter categories. And that is an overview of how to search the workout library, create a new workout, copy a new workout, and import a workout into your HumanGO library. Collectively, there are several ways to find help and support within HumanGO. The first place I suggest you go is to Hugo itself. Go to your chat icon here, and you can have a conversation with Hugo about many things endurance sports training. For example, here I asked Hugo several questions. How many carbs do I need in an hour? If the answer isn't complete, it provides a link there that I can refer to down the track. What is zone 2 training here, for example? What is fatigue? Define an ultra trail run. So Hugo would be your first go-to. Hugo can also make small adjustments to your training routine, add testing workouts, and be a general guide and help for you with all of your training. So I suggest going to the Hugo chat as your first port of call. What's important to note when it comes to Hugo is that Hugo has specific settings. So if I open up Hugo settings here, you can see there's a personality for Hugo. I've chosen cheery. There's a drill sergeant option, which is dark humor if you're into that. You can turn the Hugo tip on and off. You can specify how far ahead you would like to have visibility for your training plan. A really important aspect of Hugo's settings is the replan, auto replan turned on or off. It's turned on in this case. In this case, anytime there's a significant change in the training, So what I've done doesn't line up with Hugo's expectations. Hugo will prompt a replan. It will take into consideration that variation in the completion of the training and replan my schedule accordingly. If I have the auto replan turned off, it is on me to select the replan option either by week or date range and tell Hugo when I would like it to replan my training for me. This is really important to understand the difference. If the auto replan is turned on, there is every chance that there will be a lot of actions that will trigger a replan. Not that you won't know that that's happening, but it will change the training up and coming. If you don't want to experience that kind of continual adjustment, and that works for some people, I suggest turning this off and just initiating that replan when you are choosing yourself. So I can choose to have my plan feedback notification sent through to me and to my coach, activity feedback, weekly feedback, phase feedback, and the fatigue feedback, which helps advise the fatigue detection model as well. So these are all settings you want to check in on when it comes to Hugo. So Hugo is my first port of call for help and assistance. I can also look for a coach to work with. It's good to know that working with a coach provides that human interaction that some people might miss with being self-coached using HumanGO. So if you know your coach email or name, you can search here and by sport that they coach, as well as by location specifically. It's good to know here as well. Currently, we do not have a complete database of certified coaches through HumanGO. So if you are in fact reaching out to a coach here, it will be on you to negotiate what that agreement looks like. So we have Hugo, we have a potential coach coming into play, and then we also have our help center. Our help center can be found by the need help ? Over here. And there's a lot of resources in here from our how-to tutorials. You can search through there by chapter, what's relevant to you. You can also search up here by specific topic. We have a frequently asked questions area. We have a glossary. And if you can't find what you're looking for here, you can send us a question and we'll get back to you as soon as we possibly can with our feedback. So thank you very much for watching along the in-depth orientation of HumanGO.